All right, so again, the idea is Power BI allows me to connect to all the data around me. I bring in the data into this tool. I can transform the data, meaning clean it up. So let's say my data source provides a list of customers by state. And when someone populated the data, they didn't always use correct state abbreviations. I could bring that data in, have it transform it for me before I do reporting. So therefore, my data visualizations will be accurate. And then I can pull multiple sources, as we had mentioned. And then as you get really advanced with Power BI, it allows you to use a language called R that is essentially just extending it to more of a developer experience to do very advanced functionality. So if you look on the right here, the data elements that are displayed, these are what you're probably used to seeing like in Access or SQL Server, where you've got a list of tables and you say how they're joined. So some of you may have seen that kind of layout before. Power BI goes a step further, though, in trying to guess those relationships as you bring your data elements into the tool. So that's where the data comes from. So here's just the two choices as far as how we render the data. Do I want to see it in Excel or do I want to see it in Power BI Desktop? So again, different avenues depending on how you want to render your data. Do I want a visualization or do I just want raw data? And then after I create that report and I've got all the dashboards set up appropriately and configured such that my team will be able to interact with the data, I just tell it to publish. And when I say publish, it takes all of this dashboarding that I created and puts it out to my Office 365 Power BI site. So now that's available. If someone else in my organization has a license, then they can see this dashboard just by going to a web page. All right, so that's kind of the background information. I wanted to give you just a quick blurb about what the tool does. But like I said, we'll spend the majority of our time actually looking at Power BI. So I want to start, first of all, in Power BI Desktop. So this is the tool that you can download. Think of it kind of like a data version of Word, right? Where I can download this and do a project in it and then upload it to my Power BI website. So this is one that we wrote internally. Actually, Kara authored this for us. And it pulls in FabricCam data, which you're all familiar with. And the way we organized it, when we're publishing it out to our dashboard, we just organize it by different tabs, right? So I've got a quick overview tab, and this one is showing us data elements that are in cards. So I can quickly see my total sales as being 1.13 million, total cost. So I have these pieces of data that I want to see at a moment's notice. Now notice that down below, I can choose what period I'm looking at, like what year do I want to look at. I can change my slicer down below and say I want to look at a particular quarter. So once these are published, these are not static reports by any means. They're meant for you to interact with them and change how the data is displayed so you can get the information you need. Additionally, I could say, you know, these data elements are kind of outliers. So just go ahead and exclude those because they're skewing my graph. So I can click on exclude, and now they're out of this graph. Just for now, I'm not going to save it like that or leave it like that, but I can do a different type of analysis now that I've taken those elements out, right? So let me go on to a different tab here that's a little easier to read without the black. But again, we have this whole idea of slicers. So I have a date slicer here where I can interact. So this is what I can render in the desktop version. So let me show you a little bit of how the desktop works and I think it will make more sense. So first of all, she created a series of views. This is GP data, right? So I have all these views of things that I want to report on. And we did it this way because we don't want to have to navigate through the tool and find all the fields or have too many fields returned back to us. So this was a quick way for us to narrow down our data set. So we created a series of views. We told it to bring these views into Power BI, and you can see it creates a data model here. And again, this is what I was saying, it's kind of like your Microsoft Access interface. And then after I've brought all these in, then I can come back to my actual report and just drag the data elements onto the report and choose how I want to report on those. So even if I made a new tab in here, you can see, let's see, this one is sales by customer. So I could say, let's do customer class, I suppose, and then maybe total sales. And then I bring those couple elements in. So see right now I just have customer class and sales. I could say, you know what, I think that would be rendered really great from a stacked bar chart. So I start displaying my data and notice it labels it for me. It looks all pretty. And if I say, you know what, that isn't really what I was hoping for in this visualization, I can move it around. Like, well, maybe columns would look better. So you just apply the visualization until it looks how you would expect. And even, you know, I mentioned like a matrix visualization. There's other ones we can apply to this. So let's say now I think that looks great, and I want to add in a slicer. So a slicer is how I refine my data. So maybe I want to see it based on a time frame, based on only certain customer codes. So I drag a slicer on here. There we go. And I want it to be by, let's say customer? Custom. All right, let's do by customer name. There we go. So now, as I build this, I will make these two elements tied together. So then when I click on these, I can link the two, and as I choose a customer, it will only limit my data set up at the top to that particular customer. So as you can see, the majority of the work in creating Power BI is getting your data elements brought in and scrubbed to the point where you're ready to report on them. After that, it's really an exercise in making it pretty, making the slicers related to the data, right? So I can pull in another graph here and say, I want to display this one in a funnel. Let's see, we'll do total sales, I guess. So I start building this, and then what Kara did after she had created all of her graphs, you can then apply color schemes to it. You know, so if you want to take your color scheme for your company and apply that to a project, then when it gets published, it looks similar to your colors for your organization. So whether we're happy with this one or not, this does have some of the elements of the Alta Vista colors in it. So, so I'll just kind of tab through here so you can see some of the other sections. And some of what we did for this is really just for demonstration purposes, from the perspective of, I've got a watermark here on the back. If I want to apply a watermark behind my graphs, I can do that. I've got some data elements here that show commission. And she also tried to show the various visualizations. So like here, I can look at sales by salesperson or sales by country and show them on a map. So, you know, if you wanted to do just a map of the United States and show where your sales are prevalent, you can do that. So after this has all been honed and I've accomplished what I want in my dashboards, I would then choose whether or not I want to apply security. So unlike tools like reporting services or SmartList, I can have a report that I give to multiple people in my organization, and depending on their login, they see different data. So I could say, Scott only sees his sales, Jeremy only sees his sales, and allow them to only see data that I want them to see based on the security that I apply. So all that is part of Power BI Desktop. So I put in what's called row level security and limit who can get to what if I choose to do that. And assuming all of that's done, I can choose publish. And when I publish, this will push out to my Power BI website. From there, I can schedule a regular data publish. So of course, if I publish all this data right now, it doesn't stay refreshed. I have to tell it, go get that GP data every 15 minutes and push it out to Power BI if I want my users to see current data. So again, that's all part of the toolkit. We load what's called a Power BI gateway on your server, and that queries SQL and then pushes the data out to Microsoft's cloud. So every time someone renders something in Power BI, they're rendering it from Microsoft's cloud, not from your server, so it's not going to slow anything down. The only time your server is being accessed is when that gateway pushes data to Microsoft. So those are a couple of things we've done. I want to show you one thing that's kind of in process right now. But what we've been working on is, can you do financial statements in Power BI? You know, is that a viable option for people? So this is just some of our test data that we've been playing with. So we took one Business Central company and just copied it to two others, right? So right now they have identical data, but you kind of get the point that I can show a columnar report of a P&L for multiple companies. I could have a fourth column that's a sum of those, right? Or I can click on just one company over here and choose who I want to see a P&L for, right? So if you have, think of it this way, if you have multiple departments in your P&L, multiple profit centers, multiple companies, we can write a P&L that's more summary like this. I mean, it works well for that kind of reporting, and then let people on the fly analyze data here. So this is still something we're piloting, and this is Business Central data that she has rendered in here. But just to kind of show you that whether it's GP, Business Central, CRM, we've got some great options for how we can render that data, and it's not just pie charts and columns, et cetera. I can still do these things that are called matrix reports and build a pretty complicated P&L. All right, so that's Power BI Desktop. So let's pretend here I went ahead and published these reports. So I would click publish. It would make sure I'm logged into Office 365. And then those reports end up here on my Power BI website. Now this website, I'll flip back to the deck in a bit when we're done with the demo and show you, this website can be rendered on your phone, on a tablet. So you can load a free Power app or Power BI app that would allow you to see these same dashboards in a tablet or on your phone, however much real estate you need to really see these. So here's the Power BI financial that we had authored in desktop and now pushed it over to a website. So now I'm on the website interacting with this report. I can choose to, even though it's already been rendered here, I can do things like make comments on the report. So like if people are entering comments saying, hey, why is this sales number so low for this month? I can enter comments here. And then those get saved with the report, so other people that interact with it will be able to see comments. So you can have some dialogue that's even contained within this report. So that's kind of, I'm going to jump to my GP data so you can see what this looks like once it's rendered. And let's see, I've got sales by customer name here. If I have permissions, I can interact with the report on certain things, right? So as I click, it changes my visualization. So let me click off of here so I get it all back. Let's say here I only wanted to see a certain dollar value of sales or a certain customer name. So I have the ability as a user to only see certain customers here. So I can come in here and interact with the report. So even after it's published, your users aren't getting a static report. They're getting a report they can interact with. So the same kind of things I could do before to hide things, I could do it in here, say exclude this from the report, and see how it's making a filter for me on the right. So regardless, the Power BI desktop is where you create the report, and the service is where your users interact with it. And I won't go through each of the tabs, but again, it's the whole idea that I can come in here and filter things, drill into things. If there's data I want to see, I can tell it to drill down, right? So I could have it drill back to things. I can actually have it show me the data. So depending on what you have in here, you can allow users to keep drilling back, and then even the ability to take this data and export it out to Excel. So it's a visualization tool, that is true, but if you have data sets that you want them to analyze and then actually look at some of the details on particular things, all this data can be pushed over to Excel for further analysis. And when you export it to Excel, you could say, I want it in a pivot table, I want it just in Excel, so lots of options there. I showed you a slicer in Power BI Desktop before. So here's the slicers that we have applied, you know, where I could say only these particular item classes, only these particular sales territories. So you can apply multiple filters, and that will change the data that you have rendered below. Also, I've got my date slicer down here, so I could say, okay, I only want 2027, or I only want a particular month, quarter, et cetera. So what you'll find is your users can very quickly mine the data and get back to what they would expect to see. And we've rolled this out with multiple customers now, and it's a very quick training exercise to get end users comfortable with this tool. All right, and I can always reset it back to the default when I'm done, saying, hey, you know, I put all these filters on the data, just put it back to what it was so I can kind of go back to before I did anything. So that's Power BI Desktop, or excuse me, the web service. So as a final thing here, before we get to questions, I just want to show you, this is what Power BI, the app, looks like on your phone. So if I go into my phone, I choose a workspace, and you can define multiple workspaces. Those are more for organization. Then I say I want to see dashboards, and I have a series of dashboards loaded here. And then after I pick that dashboard, this happens to be CRM data. So here's what CRM data looks like on my phone. And then, again, going a little further, the annotation I showed you in Power BI, going through the website, you can do the same thing on your phone. You know, again, so I can circle something, hey, what's up with this? Put some question marks there, and then the next person can respond to me. So very powerful interface even from your phone. But we'll also send you these links. So Microsoft has a Power BI site just with documentation so you can learn more about it. Also, then you can download Power BI Desktop and play with it. And then, again, there's more solution templates. So you can take a look at these links when Greg distributes those later today.